Have you ever considered that black and white people may have completely different fundamental driver systems that they follow? And that understanding the intricacies of those systems, the two systems, may give us a much better, more peaceful life going forward. Let me take you on this journey of discovery in this beautiful nature story that will bring peace and hope for the future. Please join me. I would also like for you to interact with me afterwards so that we can discuss this very interesting story. So, please make yourself comfortable, sit down, enjoy. This story, I guarantee, will add value to your lives. I would, however, ask that you park your religious and spiritual commitments to the side for now so that you can listen to the whole story to the end and not have other things crowding your mind. So I would appreciate having an open mind and listen to the end. Whether you agree that we all originally came from the cradle of humankind just to the west of here or not, doesn't change the other fact that we migrated up Africa and finally, after many years, landed up in cold, wet, frozen Europe, and we turned white. It was our body's response to the limited sunshine that there is. We were looking for that life-giving vitamin D, particularly. What we learnt when we were there is that there is no God. What God would give us frozen wall-to-wall ice and snow, no trees, no leaves on the trees, no birds, no animals to eat, nothing for 6 to 8 months of the year? There is no God. We're reliant on ourselves. You either hoard or you don't make it through the winter, your family included. So, my name is Mark, and I would appreciate if you cut me a little slack with the story because I'm exaggerating a little bit to make the point. So, don't take offense. Learn something. We soon learned that you've got to plant like mad in the summer months and harvest before the winter comes to kill us, stockpile it in secure place in the cave, building walls and barricades, and because necessity is the mother of all invention, we soon learnt to make a lock and a gun to protect our food, and tractors and trucks and trains and cell phones so that we can hoard more and more. We, in fact, don't know when to stop. We're on a hamster wheel of more and more because we are dead scared of this bitch of a winter that's coming to kill us, where there's nothing, no leaves, no animals, no birds, no plants, nothing for 6 to 8 months of the year. We also learned very soon that we don't want to know the lady next door because she's going to come and want to borrow some of my stash. And that's not on. It's my family. She's risking my family's life going forward. My cellular memory says more and more. And we are on this hamster wheel of never going to have enough. When in fact, there's a Mr. Delivery down the road can send us some food. It doesn't make sense. We need to rethink this hoarding, grabbing, cellular memory dictating to us what we have to do. We don't need to plunder the earth as we are. We are grabbing, greedily taking everything that's here. The earth cannot sustain any longer. We need to look at another situation. I called us hoarders. Back here in Africa, our brothers from the same mother had a different experience. They didn't have to farm the fruit from the trees or farm the animals that came past their door, which they managed to kill, and then that was their sustenance. That, in fact, was a gift from the gods, as was everything. Everything, in their view, is a gift from the gods. The gods, in fact, provide. And in doing that, they then had to respect the gods and say thank you and gesture many things. And they live with many things that don't fit into our system. But the gods providing and witchcraft and respect for gods, etc., their ancestors, is a very big part of their lives. And in doing that respect to the gods for providing everything, these people, our brothers, soon learnt that when the gods do provide them with something, that they abundance feasted it. In other words, they consumed it all now because there was no refrigeration and very little time to look after things. It went rotten. So they also learned then, in doing that, to share. So the sharing became where logic was very simple, that when my neighbor got a gift from the gods, that he would share with me. And that's how we made it through the lean times. Or I might go and see the witch doctor and to get him to put a spell on somebody else so that I could get some more of my share because I wasn't doing that well. But you get the picture of where we're going with this, in that they share everything. Unlike us hoarders who share nothing to survive, in fact, their survival was based on sharing. But in gratitude to the gods, they said, we will consume it all now. And I then called them abundance feasters. When there's abundance, they feast it. It's a show of gratitude to the gods. Very important. And sharing. Up to now, we have in fact, none of us have realized that there is a different system that the other is operating on. We've completely never asked the question. Do you operate on a different system? And I am saying that the reason for that is, and I give the example of, it was in Cape Town, but we sailed into the Cape and the local people on the beach saw these ships rise up out of the sea because of the curvature of the earth. Sorry, no flat earthers here. But they saw these massive ships, which they'd never seen in their lives before, arrive and cast anchor. And they looked at all this with these massive sails and people with steel helmets and steel things on, get in these little boats and come to the shore. And they had sticks, these thunder sticks that could kill a man at 100 paces. They were completely blown away by this. And they went, the gods have just arrived. And we went, okay, cool, we can handle that. But in fact, we're from the same tribe, right from the beginning, the same people. Now, if you take that as a basis that happened around the whole world, the Aborigines in Australia, the Red Indians in America, exactly that same thing happened. And it leaves us with this division, and I call that racism, this separation where it's just a misunderstanding, in that we, to this point, still haven't bothered to ask or been able to ask each other whether you have a different fundamental driver to me or not. And that question needs to be asked now. If you consider these two systems, hoarding and feasting, they have been misnamed as black and white, racist. You don't do what I think is right because you're black, or vice versa. When in fact, that's got nothing to do with it at all. It's a complete misunderstanding about hoarding and feasting. Two different, completely legitimate working systems. And each one believes that's the only system there is. We've never bothered to ask, do you have a different fundamental driver to me? And that question we're going to answer now. What is needed is understanding of who you are, both sides. And once there's understanding, there will obviously be respect, because they're both completely legitimate systems. They work, both of them. One, ours, hoarder, consumption, capitalist, mining, assembling as much as possible as a hoarder to make it through the winter that's coming to kill us. We're getting all this together. Well, we are destroying the earth and all its resources. We're mining to the extent where everybody that I've ever told the story to agree that it can't go on. It's terminal. 300-400 years later, and it's terminal. Whereas our black brothers have been doing this abundance feasting, God's provide, sharing logic for hundreds of thousands of years. I suggest to you, not about black and white, not racist, but we need each other. In fact, the two systems are completely complementary of each other. They sustain each other. We can learn so much from each other's system. Leave me to be who I am. I'm bloody good at inventing stuff. I make motor cars and cell phones and all sorts of things out of necessity, because I think that the winter's coming to kill me, so I need more and more of these things, and that's why I keep stockpiling more and more. Unfortunately, I don't know when to stop, and that we need to learn from our abundance feasting brothers. They do know when to stop. They also can dance much better than we do. They can party like nobody. And there's a whole bunch of other stuff that we can teach each other, completely complementary of each other. My logic is that we need a third system. I've told you all these things which are very basic and simple and correct. There's nobody that's been able to refute them. It's just how we all grew up under the circumstances. And we, as yet, didn't even know there was any, didn't even know there were two systems. We each lived in our own system. So much so, and I challenge you to prove me wrong on this, so much so that the black abundance feasters like voluptuous girls. And the reason very simply is that they're obviously well connected to the gods. The gods look after them. So I'm going home with that girl. She's on it. Us hoarders, on the other hand, like skinny chicks, because they're not going to eat too much of my stash. Prove me wrong. There are other things that fit with this logic, and that is a thing that many of us live with every day. And the taxis, particularly these combi taxis, are that example that I'll use. We will all be stopped at the traffic lights in a very orderly way, all next to each other and behind each other, and waiting politely, etc. What happens is these taxis come past and thunder down the left hand off the road, making a lot of dust and pushing in and drive across the traffic light, etc. And you curse them and swear, and that's a cause of many arguments and gnashing of teeth. But the truth is that the abundance feaster, which he normally is, has to say thank you when the gods give him something. When they show him gratitude by opening the road, leaving the road open for him, he has to take it. Otherwise, the gods would realize that he's not grateful for that valued gift that he's just been given. He takes it because he has to. Understand that everything in the abundance feaster's life comes from the gods. The gods give everything. Our ancestors, they look after me all day. And I have to be grateful and show gratitude. And I do, by driving down the side of the road. The other thing to consider is that I, as an abundance feaster, I know everybody in the village. I know even the chickens. I know whose little baby chicks belong to that person, because we all know each other. It's a much more beautiful social system that they live in, because we share. I want to know who he is. I want to know who my neighbors are. We all share. Whereas Mr. Hoarder doesn't want to know who his neighbor is. I once asked one of my staff, who I knew, he lived in London, in fact, in a flat, and he was now working for me here in Africa. And in front of my guides, I asked him, so do you know, in your little flat when you were living in London, do you know who lived above you? And he went, no. And I said, below you? No. Next to you? No. This side perhaps? No. And one of my guides, he said, why would you do that? For me, that was beautiful. Those, for me, are proof that these are the two systems we live in, and we just missed each other. It's a misunderstanding. Let's work towards putting this together with some intelligence, because we need to. This racist crap has to go. What I've now explained about abundance feasting and the concept they follow there, obviously you cannot have an abundance feaster as the Minister of Finance or the person looking after the cash at the municipality or anywhere else for that matter. It has to be a hoarder. White or black isn't the point. A hoarder has to manage keeping or saving the excess for tomorrow. Cannot have an abundance feaster looking after the purse strings.